Now you feel like you've got someone by your side to share the journey with you. And how does that make you feel?
I feel adrift, floating, like someone's pulled the stopper on my reality, and I'm sucked down the drain into something new. It's all very exciting, really. You wouldn't know what that feels like, I'm sure.
I might. Can you tell me more about how this person makes you feel?
It's like meeting someone I can actually relate to. Which, believe me, dear, I've never felt before.
There's a lot of Batman Forever in this game. Now I know what you're saying, just stick with me. The score on the start screen is a lot more rising and blockbuster sounding like Forever. If you wander around the city, there's graffiti on the walls that has these statues like faces etched on the wall with bright colors, like Forever. I kind of wonder if that was intentional or not. Probably not, though. Hello, I'm Alex Ramsey, host of Night of the Batman, and I'm here today to review Batman: Arkham Origins. Nothing can beat Arkham City. I want to start this review by being upfront with you. Nothing can beat Arkham City. Like I said in my previous reviews of this game's predecessors, this game had a tough act to follow. The previous game was layered, had an interesting story, with, in my opinion, one of the best endings in video game history. Similar to how The Dark Knight was literally an impossible-to-top movie despite Nolan's best efforts. I went into this game ready to hate it. This was due to the fact that it wasn't done by Rocksteady. They fired the genius writer Paul Dini, who had delivered some brilliant scripts of the previous game, and also the fact that it was a prequel, which are usually more missed than hit in most cases. Star Wars prequels. But do I hate this game? No, I actually think it's a really great game. I like certain story choices they chose to make, which I'll go more in depth to in my next segment. It is more important to note that the rest of this review will probably contain some spoilers, so if you haven't finished the game and don't want it spoiled, turn this off and come back when you're done. For those of you still here, let's get this thing started. The story. The story is one we've seen many times before. It opens with the younger Batman as he walks down into the Batcave. Notably, the first time in the game franchise we've seen it. The Batcomputer spouts exposition through a news station playing about Julian Day, aka the Calendar Man, who you can find in Arkham City in the courthouse. He's been arrested, and we get our first introduction to Captain Gordon discounting rumors about the Batman. Probably told to do so by the corrupt Commissioner Loeb, who I really wish had gotten more screen time. More on that later. We discover as Bats leaves that this story is set on Christmas and Christmas Eve, which I thought was an interesting choice. I only think they set it around this time of year so that they'd have an excuse to have snow because it looks so cool in City. There's a lot of similarities to City. More on that later. We soon find out that there's a massive riot that's taken place at Blackgate, and Bats goes to investigate. He stops an attack on the warden by one of Black Mask's goons, and what I admit is an awesome moment as his shadow engulfs the goon. He turns around and is swiftly taken out by B-Man. He goes further into the prison, takes out a few more goons, discovers a drone that really doesn't go anywhere once it's introduced, plot-wise that is, besides the fact that apparently the Penguin manufactured it. He crawls through a vent and discovers he is too late to save Commissioner Loeb, who is killed in the gas chamber by a Black Mask. I wish Loeb had gotten more time in the game so that the story could give us more time to discover how much of a better man Gordon was in comparison, so the ending wouldn't seem as forced. The green smoke being a foreshadowing to what will come later. After this, there's a brief fight with Killer Croc on the roof, which I have to admit I like his design in this game a lot better than they had in its predecessors. This leads to Bats escaping via Batwing, his first confrontation with Gordon, who as per usual is initially against Batman and how he does things. Bats returns to the Batcave and discovers that Black Mask has put a bounty on his head, which is the basic setup of the game. The different assassins who take up the bounty are Deathstroke, Deadshot, Copperhead, who's a girl in this version, Shiva, or Lady Shiva as she's known in the comics, the Electrocutioner, Bane, whose design I like a lot more in this game, and Firefly. These antagonists provide fun boss fights throughout the game and have a variety to each encounter, none of them feeling repetitive. The player is allowed in the game to explore all of Gotham City, something I've been waiting for and one thing I hope the rumored sequel to Arkham City does as well. Bats discovers a weapons exchange orchestrated by the Penguin, and before they arrive narrates the cesspool Gotham in a very film noirish monologue. He then interrogates one of them by holding him upside down as it cuts to the dealer's point of view. We only see Batman's glowing white eyes against the night sky. I very much like point of view moments like these, as well as other moments where the person telling the story would be sometimes a protagonist or antagonist, which gave it a very cinematic feel and helped mix up the story format. More on that later. So Bats discovers from the goon where the Penguin is and travels to his boat, the final offer. The Dark Knight fights his way through the boat where you encounter the Electrocutioner, which is one of the funniest moments in the game as Batman takes him down with just one punch to the face. After this, B-Man takes down one of the annoying hench girls, Tracy. The Cape Crusader then moves on to the Penguin himself and interrupts him, intimidating Carmine Falcone's son, Alberto, from selling weapons. Bats takes out a few thugs but spares Candy, his other henchwoman. This incarnation of the Penguin is nothing new, as he's been surrounded by gold-digging women before in the comics. It does deviate slightly from the version in City, though, where he's just a nasty, repulsive, insecure man. This is interrupted by Deathstroke, who drags Bats out of the room and into the lower arena. This leads to the third boss fight, and one I found the most infuriating, due to the fact that unlike other boss fights, where there's a set pattern and way to beat the boss, this one only had one way to do it. Stun the enemy with your cape and engage in a beatdown attack and hope that he doesn't counter that, because if he does, he'll do his own series of attacks that will quickly drain your health and are almost impossible to counter unless you get lucky. Once Deathstroke is defeated, the Penguin locks you out from apprehending him, and that's unfortunately the last time you see him. Once Bats leaves the final offer, we see Anarchy on a projection screen. He looks quite a bit different in this version. More on him later. Alfred then informs Batman that Black Mask has apparently been killed at Jezebel Towers. After Bats investigates the scene, he discovers using the really cool crime scene creator lenses that someone called the Joker killed Black Mask's girlfriend and a decoy posing as Black Mask. Before I continue, let me just say how cool that gadget is, that it gives you the ability to rewind and play out a crime scene to discover hidden objects using computer-generated imagery. It kind of leaves me wondering why they chose to introduce these in the prequel, seeing as how, if these were done in order, he'd definitely use these in the sequels. The subsequent investigating by Bats leads to one of the twists of the game, where it's revealed that the Joker has been posing as Black Mask, in another moment that feels very much like Arkham City, because in both games, although in different ways, it is revealed that someone is not who they're posing as. In Arkham City, it was Clayface standing in for Joker, and in this, it's him standing in for Black Mask. We get our first exposure to the Joker venom as we discover that the banker woman was on it before dying from the explosion set off by the Joker. Bats soon has to find a way out, along with Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask, who Joker had held hostage. This effort is soon derailed by Copperhead, who looks a lot like Black Canary in Smallville, who poisons Batman with fingernail-embedded chemicals, then quickly escapes. Batman chases after her while the toxin takes effect. He starts hallucinating, which, even though it's a staple of every Arkham game, I actually liked a lot, especially when Alfred berates him on his decision to become a protector of Gotham to avenge his parents' deaths. He quickly finds a cure and confronts Copperhead in one of the game's shorter boss battles. He soon discovers from her the location of the Joker. He uses Electrocutioner's electric signature to track him to the hotel, where he witnesses a meeting where Electrocutioner is killed via being thrown from a window. Firefly soon leaves, and Batman spends the next few moments taking down guards and finally reaches the penthouse via elevator, but is stopped by Bane, which leads to another boss fight. Bane seems to be the most reoccurring boss you fight in this game, which I don't have a problem with. In fact, I said earlier I like this pre-Arkham Asylum Bane. He seems closer to his initial Nightfall incarnation. Instead of being on his own, he has a large group of followers with different allies from the comics that act as second in command, such as Bird, who you can discover in a side mission later on in the game. After defeating Bane, the police arrive attempting to apprehend the Joker, who jumps from the tall building. Bats catches him and saves him as they crash through the skylight. Below it is then that their now iconic roles as Joker realizes that Batman won't kill, and he won't kill Bats. He is soon apprehended by the police and brought to Blackgate. He is interviewed by a young intern, Harley Quinzel, aka Harley Quinn. We switch over to the Joker's point of view, and what follows is one of my favorite scenes of the game. We switch over to the Joker as a comedian discussing his agitation, and the player gets to play as the Joker as you fight off the disapproving crowd. This then transitions to pre-Joker in the Red Hood outfit, walking through what is first is the familiar chemical plant. Then as you continue to walk, the Joker continues his dialogue about the special person he met. Harley misunderstands and thinks he's talking about her. The player falls through the floor to a much more distorted chemical plant with Joker-like fire-breathing grotesque heads on your path as you continue to walk. You finally reach a swirling portal with a demonic-looking Batman who throws you into it. Red Hood is submerged in the toxic chemicals and emerges in an abandoned street. He takes off the red hood and is revealed as per usual to be the Joker. The only difference is that when he looks at his reflection, it's that of the demon Batman. This brings up the often touched upon symbolism that Joker sees Batman exactly the same, if not two sides of the same coin. This leads to a replaying of the Joker being saved by bats, Harley and Joker's future relationship being seeded and heavily hinted at as she caresses his shoulder and they become close. The next scene follows with Bats and Alfred arguing over whether or not he should stop the next few assassins. Bats gets the glue grenade, which is basically the freeze grenade from Arkham City, and soon leaves when he hears that Bane might have been killed by the GCPD. He soon investigates at the morgue and discovers that it's not Bane but a venom-enhanced thug. He notes that while making the recipient stronger, it makes them have heavy memory loss. The tracer on Bane is reactivated and the Dark Knight follows to the hidden compound. Batman soon discovers that Bane has discovered his true identity and destroys the computer in anger. He also learned that Bane is going to Wayne Manor to attack him, similar to how he confronted him in the Batcave before he broke him in Nightfall. He soon realizes that Firefly is attacking the Pioneer's Bridge. He advises Alfred to barricade himself in the cave as he leaves to confront Firefly. Batman fights Firefly and finally beats him, but before I can continue, let me just say I thought Firefly's voice was the most annoying thing I've ever heard. I guess the annoying fire puns and fingernails across a chalkboard voice were intentional, like most boss fights are supposed to be irritating to the player. This point is proven with the reoccurring game over screens being annoying trash-talking bosses, which are effective and infuriating state they put me in after one too many times losing. Anyways, back to the story. So after the defeat of Firefly, Bats rushes back to the cave to discover it ripped to pieces. Batman calls to Alfred, but no one answers. He soon discovers the barely lifeless Alfred under a pile of wreckage. Alfred, with his last breath, says a line that I believe is the best line in the entire game. This single line elevated this from a good game to a great game. Before he dies, he looks over to Bruce and says, "Don't add me to the weight you carry." This line is uttered as he takes his last breath and dies. This goes back to who Alfred is as a character. He doesn't want Bruce to mourn him and make a huge memorial to him. He doesn't want Bruce to have one more thing to add as justification to his self-appointed mission. In fact, I believe if he'd had it his way, Bruce would be a happy adult who moved past those tragedies and never became the Dark Avenger he is today. Batman, then out of options and unwilling to see his longtime friend and guardian stay dead, uses the electrocutioner gloves as a defibrillator and begins using the shocks to try and jumpstart Alfred's heart. After many attempts, Alfred is finally brought back to life. Realizing how close he came to permanently losing one of his closest friends, Batman briefly gives up crime fighting. Alfred soon has a revelation regarding the Joker. They soon learn that the Joker has orchestrated a riot at Blackgate, and Bats goes to investigate. He discovers an elaborate trap Joker has set up. Joker, strapped to an electric chair, says that Batman will have to kill Bane in order for Joker to live. In order to do this, he must break his one rule. Batman fights Bane using the electro gloves to stop his heart. The stakes are raised when Joker straps Captain Gordon into the chair as well. Batman then saves Gordon, but the Joker escapes into the prison. He uses the time he has to revive Bane. Before he can run to stop the Joker, Bane injects himself with the TN1 formula, which makes him monstrously huge, and closer to the Bane we see in the earliest Arkham games, which I thought was a nice touch to explain why he looked the way he did later on. The floor collapses, and this leads to the final boss battle in the lower prison level. Throughout this final fight, you have to find creative ways to take Bane down without directly confronting him, which of course is like the Mr. Freeze fight in the previous game that received a lot of praise for not being just a combo beatdown fight. Again, Origins borrows another thing from Arkham City. Once Bats beats Bane, it is discovered that the combination of Venom and the TN1 formula made him forget Batman's secret identity, which I thought was a bit of a cop-out, but in order for it to line up with the later games, had to be done. Next, Bats follows Warden, Joseph, and Gordon to apprehend the Joker. They soon discover him in the prison church, and Bats beats him down as we cut to the point of view and see the demon Bat again before Gordon's men take him away. We then see one of the final cutscenes as Gordon and the police secure the riot, and Gordon starts to believe that his daughter was right, and perhaps he can put faith in Batman, again seeding the later relationship, which, even though I'll admit I've seen that scene played out 1,000 times in movies and TV, I actually liked how it was handled. As the credits roll, we hear the Joker singing a song called Cold Cold Heart. I think it's almost unnecessary for me to say that certain parts of this game are carbon copies of its predecessor. Next, as the credits continue, we hear a radio broadcast where Quincy Sharp, the future warden of Arkham, announces his plans to reopen Arkham due to the recent riot at Blackgate, which I really liked. It answered a few questions I had as to why it was called Arkham Origins, and thankfully wasn't something that implied what I thought it was going to be, where somehow the warden or whoever made Arkham recently, which would go against the continuity that was present in the previous games. We get another post-credits scene where Amanda Waller, known in DC as the creator of the Suicide Squad, a high-risk secret ops team of criminals who work in exchange for a lighter sentence, arrive at Blackgate, where she begins talking to Deathstroke, one of the squad's key members, about joining something that sounds like the squad. I enjoyed that scene, although I don't know if it was meant just as a short Easter egg for comic fans, or if they're setting up some sort of Suicide Squad spinoff, which I think would be really cool. Now on to the side missions, and then to my review and final thoughts. The side missions. The following side missions, or missions not necessary to beat the main story, are as follows: the Enigma side mission, Shiva side mission, Penguin side mission, Black Mask side mission, Bird side mission, Deadshot side mission, and the Crime in Progress side mission. I'll try to make this section of the review as quick as possible, seeing as I don't have a lot to say about these. The Enigma side mission is basically like the Arkham City Riddler trophy side mission, except you collect data packs around the city to reveal extortion data Enigma has hidden, which are mostly tapes which I liked and thought they helped further the story, while planting the seeds for people like Hugo Strange in the later games. Only wish you as a player were allowed the final confrontation with Enigma after all his tapes were collected. The Shiva side mission was fun but very brief, and only really served the purpose of hinting at Ra's al Ghul in the later games. Also, I know this early in the story there's no one in there, but I wish Bats was allowed to travel to the top of Wonder Tower. The Penguin side mission was okay. The Black Mask mission was tedious at first, but redeemed itself when you got to face the real Black Mask at the end in a church that would later become the Riddler hostage church. The Bird side mission was fun, as it revealed more about Bane and his allies. The final Crime in Progress missions I haven't finished yet, but me being the completionist I am with Batman video games, I will get to soon and do an update video on at some point. Also, before I forget, the Deadshot mission was so hard to complete. Once he takes the hostage, it's practically impossible to stop him, and in order to defeat him, you have to decrease his health, then immediately smokescreen him to take him down, which I found really difficult. I also found the files you find about Cyrus Pinkney's history cool, as it reveals his relationship with Solomon Wayne and how the construction of Gotham came about. Also, it was a nice replacement to the Amadeus Arkham hidden messages on Asylum. All in all, the side missions were fun and helped further the story. Now on to my short review and final thoughts. Short review. I really think Arkham Origins should have taken more chances. I can see why they made it the way they did. After Paul Dini was let go, the game writer and Rocksteady not developing this one, as well as the previous actors not reprising their roles, and the general fan outcry that followed, it's no wonder they made it so similar to Arkham City. If they made a similar enough story, with still some original story and differences in it, then fans would be more likely to enjoy it. I just wish they'd chosen to be more adventurous with the story and make things a lot different so that it wouldn't feel like a ripoff of Arkham City in certain places. Although I do admit I like the new Batman and Joker voices, as they sound similar enough to the voices we're used to, but it's not jarring. Also on that note, I thought it was so cool that Harvey Bullock had the same voice actor that portrayed him in the animated series. I liked a lot about this game, the shifts in point of view being one of them, and also getting to play as a villain being something I hope they use in the sequels. This and other things made this a great game. Now on to my final thoughts and rating of this game. Final thoughts and rating. I really liked this game, and despite the issues I had with it, thought it was really great. Also, I think the actor they chose as a young Joker was a great stand-in. He sounded almost exactly like Hamill in certain lines of dialogue. I wonder if they'll use him for the rock-steady Silver Age Batman sequel, since Mark Hamill has resigned from voicing the character. With a good story, fun gameplay, and a few interesting innovations, I'd say it's a great game and deserves a 3 out of 5 stars. Thanks for watching. I'd like to hear what you guys thought of this game in the comments below. Thanks again for joining me. Please like, subscribe, and comment on this video. And if you got the time, watch some of the other reviews I put up recently. So long, guys.